It's so hard. The sun. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spiels on Wheels. Today I want to talk to you about a couple of topics, just a couple of things that have been on my mind lately I really want to talk to you about. And the way that we talk about it might be a little bit awkward or jumping around, mainly because one of the topics I don't feel like I should have to talk about, but it's really been bothering me a lot lately, so I feel the need to talk about it. But the other topic is actually something that I want to talk about, so let's start with that, and then delicately weave in and out of the other one. And that first topic that I want to talk about is Hamilton the musical. So while Angst and I were house sitting and cleaning up the house a little bit, without me really realizing it, Angst turns on the soundtrack to Hamilton on the Alexa. But when we were listening to it then, a lot of the songs weren't really grabbing me. I just couldn't really get in with any of them past a couple of the first few. So we talk about it a little bit, and because I wasn't really feeling it just listening to it, we decided to watch it. And all I can really say in my defense is that I wasn't expecting the performance, the stagehand, the lighting, everything that went into the musical to actually enhance my experience of it that much. Because something that I should tell you right now is even though that I like plays or live performances and music by themselves, I generally don't like musicals. Now that isn't really to say that I liked every single song in the musical. And of course, as always, please chalk all this up to personal taste. Because to me, that's really what all of this comes down to, is personal taste. And I could cite some scenes and musical numbers for you that I think really due to the detriment of some character development or even musical theming in the musical itself. But as time's gone on, I've found myself wanting to talk less and less about that kind of things with people unless they themselves want to have that conversation. And that's about as good of a segue as I can muster to get into this next topic that I really don't want to talk about for too long.
Are you Google Earthing the neighborhood?
No, I'm doing a vlog podcast. Basically, even though I have a bachelor's in software development, I studied music in school for 6 years-ish, and I've been researching and looking into game design since I was about 16. In a conversation, I'm going to do my best not to tell you what's what, unless you're asking for help or if something conflicts with something I've heard or seen or was taught. And those kinds of situations truthfully don't come up that often, because outside of basic academia, I feel like most of what I've learned is self-taught or just stuff that I've seen on the internet. And even if the information didn't come from one of those two sources or ways of learning, I'd really hope that present me doesn't rub it in somebody's face, because the me that I'm trying to be lately is someone that talks to people in order to understand them and not to prove them wrong. And the hope for most conversations is that they'll do the same for me, because with what little time that we have on this earth, I've found that the thing that I want to be is understood. So getting back into how I feel about Hamilton, even though I have a limited knowledge of what Manuel was trying to do, it seems to me that even though there's a majority of rap and hip-hop songs in the musical, a lot of numbers diversify their genre pool quite a bit, like jazz, pop, ragtime, and the Beatles. What I really want to talk about more than the diverse genre pool is actually something that really touched me to my core during the second performance. And it's actually why I feel like these two topics go together well, even though I didn't want to talk about the middle one. And this is definitely spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen Hamilton yet or hasn't taken US history. And around the second to third final song, in a duel between Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr, this sort of stagehand slowdown happens, and we get an insight into Alexander Hamilton's final thoughts. And at this point, he's not even singing, he's only talking. He's rushing his thoughts, and it's obvious that he's rushing his thoughts. He keeps talking about how little time he has to do the things that he needs to do. And in the end of the scene, it ultimately leads to him being shot by Aaron Burr, all because he finally chose to throw away his shot. Now, to call that song traumatic for me is probably not an overstatement. And while now that I've had time to think it over and really collect my thoughts about it, Angst can tell you that during that number I had a panic attack. Just like Alexander, my thoughts were darting around, figuring out how much time I had left, how much time he had left. And it's really something that I think that I've struggled with this year, is the finality of everything. Now, it's been more than a few days since I watched it, but I can tell you that it's something that I haven't stopped thinking about since. And this is something that's pretty new to me, because I generally have thought about media in terms of facts and objectiveness. But Hamilton the musical is something that I can say touched me personally, and touched me on a level that wasn't just due to its stagehand or music or performance alone. It's something that I think so much media is missing nowadays, and that's heart. And I feel like I wouldn't have been able to tell you this if it weren't for this kind of video format, because the last time I told someone about this in person, I started crying. The biggest reason I think these two topics work well together is because if it was me from a couple of years ago, I would have been an elitist douchebag. Because if it were me from a couple of years ago, I probably would have been an elitist douchebag and only try to tell you about the inner workings of the play rather than how I felt about it. And that kind of mentality, when trying to make someone understand how you feel, just aren't really compatible mentalities. Even if you learn something from a university that you know to be an irrefutable fact in that business or in that practice, doesn't give you the right or ammunition to tell people off or make them feel like their opinions don't matter. Try to understand where people are coming from and try to actually have a conversation with them and not just tell them what's what, which for a lot of people that know me know that's probably rich. But I can feel it in my heart. Something's changed about me, and I'm pretty sure that I don't want to have those kinds of talks anymore, unless it's to understand how the other person is feeling or to explain how I'm feeling. Everybody, if you like this video, leave a comment down in the comments, subscribe, give the video a like. My walk is over, and I know that I didn't do any wheeling today, but I got really caught up in today's topic. If you want to talk about Hamilton or the things that you liked or didn't like, leave it down in the comments as well. Everybody, have a great day. It smells like a boys' locker room right now.